Ja Morant is in trouble with the NBA again, this time being fined for inappropriate gestures during a game against the Miami Heat. Hold on, that's not right. My notes must be wrong because the game was against the Warriors and he just got a warning. He didn't get fined. Oh yeah, that's because he did it again just hours later after being warned by the league. Now, this isn't a massive deal, but it is an indication of a situation in Memphis that is pretty quickly spiraling out of control. They just fired their coach in Taylor Jenkins, who most people agree is a good coach, is probably going to be in demand in the offseason as the all-time franchise leader in wins. And they did that with just 9 games left until the playoffs because the Grizzlies just cannot beat good teams. They cannot beat a team over 500 in the second half of the year. They themselves are a below 500 team, and it kind of just looks like they're falling apart. And Ja has been a part of the issue. He's been hurt a bunch this season, which has been a theme in his career, and he just hasn't been as good this year either, especially attacking the rim, finishing in the paint, all the stuff that Ja used to be fantastic at. He's still good at, but just not as good. Not to mention the fact that he still can't shoot. He has not improved as a three-point shooter at all during his career, and it's really starting to negatively impact the Grizzlies offense as a whole, not to mention the fact that all of his numbers are down this season. And if I was a Grizzlies fan, that would be way more concerning to me than these dumb incidents that he keeps getting into trouble with the league. His play on the floor is declining, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. The new offense in Memphis, how they've changed things around. Obviously now the coaching staff is different. I think the injury stuff has a lot to do with it. He seems to always be dealing with some kind of injury, whether it be to his shoulder, or his hand, or his lower body. But this is an archetype of player that we've seen decline quicker than you would think throughout the history of the league. A guy that maybe has some issues off the floor, a guy that relies a ton on his athleticism, that wants to get to the rim all the time, that is potentially reckless getting to the rim, someone that gets hurt a bunch, someone that isn't playing as many games as you'd hope. These kinds of guys can fall off a cliff pretty quickly, and that's the real concern here if you're really an NBA fan and a Grizzlies fan specifically. And at this point, it's important to go back and look throughout the rest of his career and figure out how we got to this point to determine whether we should be really concerned that the end is actually near for superstar Ja Morant. Now, if you go back to Ja's first year in the league, that was 2019. The 2019 draft was this incredibly exciting draft class. It was Ja, it was Zion, it was RJ Barrett, and some people actually thought that Ja Morant should have been the first overall pick in that class. People were concerned about Zion's body type, some of the weight issues, potentially the injury issues as well, and Ja was seen as this really exciting prospect, an explosive athlete, a great playmaker, some shades of someone like Derrick Rose. People were super excited for what Ja was going to be, and when the Grizzlies jumped up to second overall in that draft, they had a huge jump in the lottery. It changed everything for the future of the franchise. They had a couple of solid pieces already. Guys like Jaren Jackson looked pretty good, but Ja was going to be the star, the guy that was going to take them to a new level. And importantly for Ja at the time as a prospect, there were not really any character concerns on the level of some of the things that we've seen from him in the NBA, where he seems to almost always be getting in trouble with the league for one thing or another. And in that first year in the league, Ja was fantastic. He played a career-high 67 games. He's never played more games than that in his career. Second best three-point shooting percentage of his career was in his first season. He wins the Rookie of the Year award. The Grizzlies are a solid team. They finish a few games below 500, and they're 9th in the West. As they're transitioning to this new team, as they're getting rid of some of these veterans, they look like a really fun up-and-coming team around Ja. In year 2, there's some more improvement. He's a better playmaker. He gets to the free throw line more, which becomes a key part of what he does, just getting to the rim constantly, constant rim pressure. Overall, his efficiency goes down because it takes a few more threes. He's trying to improve as a three-point shooter, but the Grizzlies continue to ascend and they make the playoffs before losing in round 1. Then we get to year 3, and this is where Ja completely goes off. He explodes in year 3. His scoring jumps from 19 points per game the year before to 27 points per game. The assists go down a little bit, but this is the best Ja season of his career. At this point, year 3 in the league, it looks like he is going to be one of the faces of the league moving forward. He's got a career high in field goal percentage, a career high in three-point percentage. He's taking almost 5 threes a game, and even though he only plays 57 games, which again kind of continues to be a theme and a concern for him throughout his career, this was what we all wanted to see from Ja year 3. He really makes the leap. He wins most improved. He makes the All-Star team, second team All-NBA, finishes 7th in MVP voting, and the Grizzlies get the 2 seed. This is 3 years into Ja's career. He's 21, 22 years old, someone that looks like he is going to take this team to incredible heights, a potential future championship contender all around Ja Morant. The problem is they don't go on that deep of a playoff run. Ja ends up getting hurt in the postseason, but still, it's clear that this is one of the guys to pay attention to moving forward. And then in year 4, he has another fantastic season. He becomes more of a playmaker. His assists jump up from around 7 to around 8 per game. Scoring and efficiency do drop a little bit because he isn't shooting as well from three. That year 3 3-point shooting number seems to be a little bit of an outlier when you look at his statistical profile throughout his career, but it's another great regular season for the Grizzlies that once again falls short in the playoffs. But at this point, 4 years into his NBA career, 24 years old, this is what the resume looks like for Ja Morant. Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player, 2-time All-Star, 1-time Second-Team All-NBA, a top 7 and a top 12 MVP finish, and great team success in the regular season 2 years in a row. Yes, there are continued concerns about his play style and how that leads to him missing games and some of the injury stuff, but at this point, he's one of the most popular and most well-marketed stars in the entire league. He looks like the next great American NBA player. The guy that Anthony Edwards really becomes a couple years later. That's what Ja was after his first 4 years in the league. And obviously, if he had continued on that track, I wouldn't be making this video, but he didn't. Going into year 5, he starts to get in trouble with some of the social media stuff. He gets a 25-game suspension, plays just 9 games. He gets hurt, he's out for the year, and the Grizzlies have a bunch of injuries, and they're terrible. And then going into the season, we're wondering, can he turn it around? Is that just a blip and a speed bump in Ja Morant's career? Well, in year 6, he's had a career low in minutes, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, a career high in turnovers, a sharp dip in points per game down to around 23 a game. It just doesn't look like the same kind of guy. All the stuff that he used to be great at, finishing at the rim, getting to the free throw line, he's just kind of good at now. On top of the fact that the continued issue of injuries and missing games continues to be a problem. Which brings us to right now. What does the future look like for Ja Morant in Memphis and really just in general? Because for the Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. has really supplanted Ja as the best guy on the team. He's a better two-way player, much better defender, a much improved offensive player, spaces the floor for other guys, and at times, he's been the late game guy. Ja's actually been pretty clutch this year. He's had a couple of really good shots, but a lot of times down the stretch, they are going more to Jaren Jackson. They've moved their offense away from what Ja likes to do, which is a lot of ball screen stuff, a lot of pick and roll stuff. They moved the offense away from that after changing out the coaching staff before the season. Now, of course, changing out the head coach in the middle of the season. And that to me signals a team that is potentially recognizing how flimsy their future would be if they continue to put everything on Ja and count on him for everything that their future of their franchise is going to be. Because you can say whatever you want to about the suspension stuff and Ja getting in trouble with the league once again now, but regardless of whether you think those punishments were too strong or too light, one thing you can definitely say about Ja is that he has been inconsistent with the Grizzlies. He's not playing enough games. You can't count on him to not be weird on social media on a night-to-night basis or weird during the games on a night-to-night basis. You can't count on the guy to be your franchise player the way that you thought you could through the first couple years of his career, which of course leads to all of the rumors about Ja possibly being traded. Is he on the trade block? Is he going to get moved this offseason? Are the Grizzlies just over it? Do they want to move him, get some assets, and move forward? They've already said publicly they're not trading him. They want to keep Ja as the focal point of their team, but it's very possible that all of the issues he's having are becoming a real problem for the Grizzlies. And if they did decide to trade him, there would probably be a pretty big market for him. He's still really young. He's someone that is going to be extremely marketable if you get him into a bigger market. And there are certainly going to be teams around the league that, should Ja become available, would not take very much to convince themselves that that's the guy that they want to trade for, they want to build around, because he's just that talented. You look at those first 4 years in the league and how he improved, how much better he got, especially in year 2 when he was a really good three-point shooter. That version of Ja, in addition to all the other stuff that he does, he's an unbelievable focal point player for your team. But personally, I'd be absolutely terrified to trade a bunch of stuff for Ja Morant right now. I want someone that I can count on, that I know is going to be consistent on a day-to-day basis. If I'm going to be trading away a bunch of first-round picks, if I'm going to be trading away like a Donovan Mitchell level trade package from a couple of years ago when the Cavs got him, I need to know I can count on the guy. And right now, you can't count on Ja to play 60 games. You can't count on him to not get suspended or fined or just have a lot of weird headlines around the team. You can't really count on him to be all that much of a leader. And to me, that's just way too much of a risk. And it's a real possibility that a couple of years from now, Ja Morant at 27, 28 years old is just still the guy that we see right now, because he just won't get any better. We haven't seen real improvement from him really in 2 years, and the three-point shooting stuff hasn't gotten any better. It's really hard to build your team around a guard that just can't shoot and won't space and wants to be on the ball all of the time. If they're not incredible at the paint, they're not incredible at the rim, which Ja just isn't. And I would just be terrified to trade for the guy. Now, it's distinctly possible that he just needs a new situation. He needs a fresh start. He needs to go somewhere else. And if he goes to, one of these bigger market teams, maybe that's the guy for Miami. They feel like they can turn him around. Whatever the case may be, it's clear that all of the talent that made Ja the rising star of the league, arguably through his first 4 years in the league, all of that stuff is absolutely still there. And we know that from a team success perspective, you can win a lot of games, at least in the regular season, with Ja as your focal point guy, if he can figure it out. It's just been a very strange situation. It's a very strange turn in a story of a guy that we all thought was going to be this unbelievable player through his first couple years in the league.